There's another breakdown video of press briefing between Attorney General John Ashcroft and the FBI Director Robert Mueller, made on September 28, 2001. Um, Interesting to note that the day prior to this, they had announced for the first time the names of all the hijackers involved with these September 11 attacks, along with the pictures. And this is the day afterwards.
The investigation continues to make progress. As of today, the FBI website has received 97,996 tips. The FBI incoming toll-free hotline has received 17,532 tips. There have been a total of over 480 people arrested or detained. I wanted to take this opportunity to provide some details and contexts.
You know, you have to wonder just how many of those were Arabs who boarded the planes on September 13th, 14th, when they lifted the ban on national flights. And DJ Thermodetonator did a great film on this, the additional hijackings of September 11th. And it's the only film that I know of, but the only series that I know of. And I searched for years, well over 16, regarding this anomaly that was covered up by the FBI, probably at the behest of the State Department. You have to wonder just how many people were arrested, detained. And according to the film, according to DJ Thermodetonator, it's, it's about approximately up to 30 to 40 people. And this fits well with the additional hijacking attempts. Had it not been for Gerald Arpey of United Airlines, who ordered the first stand down of his national flights, and then later on Norman Mineta, this would have been far worse. Remember, if we're to believe that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, what Khalid Sheikh Mohammed originally wanted, and what he said to bin Laden, grain of salt, was to hijack 10 planes. This came from the idea of the Bajinka plot, and the secret plot that was revealed by one of the plotters of the Bajinka plot, Abdul Hakim Murat, to Philippines authorities in 1996.
To reports of a letter
It pauses every time
that was found belonging to 3 of the hijackers. Copies of this letter in its original language will be provided. A 4-page handwritten letter was found in the suitcase of Mohammed Atta, one of the hijackers on American Airlines Flight 11. You may recall that there was a suitcase that did not make it to the plane and was recovered by the FBI in Boston.
That's because there was a connecting flight from Portland to Boston, which raises another issue as to why Abdulaziz Al-Amari and Mohammed Atta went to Portland to begin with. Now, according to the 9/11 Commission and the FBI, it was to basically not overwhelm Logan with a number of Arabs going on planes. But at the time, there wasn't much in the way of many people on the tip-off list, which is the national database regarding threats to national airlines. I think at the time there was 6 names on there. So I don't understand why there was this need to go to Portland other than to meet somebody there. And this is where I agree with DJ Thermodetonator that they were going to meet somebody there, somebody important enough. And this is where they found the list in, I think it was Al Gumdi's car in Logan. They found the list of all the names of the people that were involved with the plane's operation, which we happen to think there was more than 19.
A second copy of the letter was also found at Dulles Airport in a vehicle that was used by Nawaf al-Hazmi,
Al-Hazmi, not
one of the
al-Ghazmi.
hijackers on American Airlines Flight 77. Additionally, a third copy of the letter was found at the crash site of United Airlines Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. These three documents, this letter, is clear evidence linking.
By the way, for those truthers out there that say, oh, passports were planted. Mohammed Atta's passport was planted in New York. Fucking paper. Survived. You know, other artifacts survived from passengers too. And Flight 93 found the most artifacts. There were driver's licenses, student ID cards found on the in the debris field. C.C. Lyles, a flight attendant, found her identity card.
The hijackers on the three separate flights on September 11th. The letter is written in Arabic and contains instructions to the hijackers as well as Islamic prayers. It is a disturbing and shocking view into the mindset of these terrorists. The letter provides instructions.
Not so much. The letter really goes into how to deceive American Westerners into looking more westernized, so not to arouse suspicion. How, you know, during the preparation for martyrdom, how to clean the body with perfumes so that you can enter Jannah, which is heaven in Arabic, prepared for Allah and his angels waiting for you because you're going to be received as a martyr. The virgins and all that nonsense, which is not in the Quran.
Instructions to the terrorists to be carried out both prior and during their terrorist attacks. Let me make clear that while this letter contains a number of religious references, I do not believe it to be representative of Muslims or the Islamic faith.
The only thing Ashcroft said.
The letter is a stark reminder of how these hijackers grossly perverted the Islamic faith to justify their terrorist acts.
Correct.
I want to express my appreciation for the efforts of American Muslim leaders to educate the public about their faith and to stress that the Muslim faith is peaceful and in no way condones these acts of violence.
The only irony in this is that we went to war against Iraq and Afghanistan, and then later on Syria and Libya, and destroyed these countries. Not because they were Islamic, they just happened to be Islamic, but because Israel and the Gulf and the West have an agenda to destroy and desensitize the entire Middle East to where socialist Arab publics are led by Western-backed leaderships. Notice how all the countries we've attacked didn't have an Islamist problem or doesn't support Islamists. Saudi Arabia does. United Arab Emirates does. Bahrain does. Israel supports Qatar. Qatar is the home base of Hamas.
And
not making this up.
I remind all Americans that law-abiding Muslim Americans are patriotic citizens who deserve dignity and respect. You'll be getting copies of the letter that'll be made available
because
to
it says
you.
nothing of significance.
Letters that were found in the three separate locations relating to the three separate flights.
Hey, why don't you just show us the transcripts of what the NSA had regarding their signals intelligence operation at the Al-Qaeda communications hub in Yemen? Then we could talk, right? But no, that's classified. This nonsense paper we'll give to the public.
If you have questions.
Attorney General, a representative of the European Union told us yesterday that its members will not extradite suspects to the United States unless the United States guarantees that they won't face the prospect of execution. Is this your understanding? And if it is, how do you deal with that?
We have not sought extradition of any individuals in regard to this particular attack on the United States to date. And obviously, I believe that the law, which is clear in relation to capital punishment in the United States when certain factual conditions are met, is a law that we ought to be able to enforce. Yes.
Mr. Attorney General, you and the director have been very clear about how you're not targeting any person because of his or her ethnicity or religion, but there are a lot of people who've been interviewed by the FBI agents who are saying they're being queried as to their political beliefs and as to their feelings about the attacks. How is that justified?
Well, Bob may want to make some comments about it, but let me first say this was an attack on the United States for people who would have a clear motive, if in fact that is it was a clear motive, I think, on the individuals who made this attack on the United States, that their feelings about the United States are related. And when we're trying to talk to individuals who may or may not have been associated or who may have information regarding this, the way in which they the way they feel about the United States may be related.
Well, listen, let me put it to you this way. The State Department later on under George Bush basically propagated to the American people that the reason why they did these attacks in the first place was because they hated our way of life. They hated our freedoms. But that's not what the hijackers said in their audio will, in their video wills. They specifically stated that the reason why they have their positions regarding a detrimental view of the United States is all based on foreign policy, about what they're backing in Israel against Palestine, the first Gulf War in Iraq in 1990, the subjugation of what they claim is the Muslim Ummah, which is the Muslims worldwide. And were they wrong, really? I mean, what does it give them the right to kill people in return? But you can understand the mindset. Look, this is not just echoed with the 9/11 hijackers. It's echoed with the 1993 bomber himself, the master bomber, Ramzi Youssef. I always go back, it sounds like a broken record at this point. Go read his statement, what he made to Judge Duffy regarding what he said before he was sentenced to 254 years, right? All based on U.S. foreign policy. Bin Laden, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, the emir of the Egyptian Islamic Guard, and later on the emir of Al-Qaeda after bin Laden's death. All based on foreign policy. Saif al-Adil, the former military commander, and now the unofficial emir of Al-Qaeda, read his papers, all based on U.S. foreign policy. Nothing to do with freedom of religion, women's rights, or that the United States is a secular nation or a Christian nation. Everything to do with U.S. West foreign policy. United States and Israel specifically. But they don't want you to know that, because then you'll start questioning, well, maybe something's wrong with our foreign policy.
Then
you can understand.
In our questioning, we are delving into any relationships that the individuals may have had with any of the hijackers or indeed associates of the hijackers. Inevitably, that may cross over into relationships that may have sprung out of attendance at, for instance, religious meetings. But there is no effort to delve into either the political or the religious beliefs of individuals unassociated or in no way tied to questioning related to whether or not they were associated in any way with one or more of the hijackers or helped or assisted in any way one or more of the hijackers.
Are you to indicting someone who's directly involved in the planning of the attacks? And has the FBI identified anyone other than bin Laden who may be a mastermind of this plot?
When we are prepared to talk about indictments, we will. And we are continuing with the investigation. We're making progress in the investigation, but aren't ready to make announcements in that respect. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mueller spoke yesterday briefly about focusing on prevention. Might we get some sense of what have been the most successful measures on prevention have been since September 11th? And there are some reports out there that there were a couple of incidents averted since that time. Is that true?
Well, let me just say this. We are focused on prevention. We think the prevention of additional acts of violence against the United States by those whose agenda is to impair our ability to exist as a free nation, that agenda must be disrupted and interrupted. And to take steps to do that, there have been a wide range of things done, but including very substantial additional security in a variety of settings. You all are aware of them, everything from the grounding of crop dusters and then developing new ways of dealing with those tools of agriculture which could be perhaps perverted to other nefarious ends, to the different standards around airports and to an alert, heightened state of alert for a variety of other infrastructural assets of the country. And we hope that our effort to curtail any additional successful acts of terror will indeed be fruitful. And I think we've asked the citizens of the country to participate in that. I talked yesterday asking for their assistance in what I termed as, in effect, a national neighborhood watch. Everyone can be a part of making sure that we avoid additional acts that are so costly. Sir.
That just tells you everything about the intelligence community, because they had enough intelligence to basically stop the attacks. After all these years, in hindsight, from this press briefing, and at the same time, we basically have now more than enough apparatuses, systems in place to basically make the country safer. But that doesn't really make us safer in the eyes of the government, because the government needs an instigating, and it needs an instigating point of terrorism to conduct new wars. Now, you can always just say that, governments are corrupt. They're not reacting in a way that where there's any future dialogue. This is what they did to Syria. Then sanctions came, and that didn't work. Assad withstood it, backed by Lebanon, backed by Iran. He was a formidable powerhouse. Okay, he has a very old and elusive intelligence security agency that's behind him. But what happened? The CIA, the Israelis, the Saudis, the Gulf, Turkey, all got behind and basically subdued this man and told the world that he's a terrible dictator and that we're trying to make the country safer. Well, now we have the leader of Al-Qaeda in Syria as the president of a country. So instead of giving a dictator a country, we gave it to a terrorist. And to anybody from the left celebrating this, you didn't hear that, because what are they going to do? Celebrate a terrorist? Well, you heard the rumors. Oh, Assad is gone. Assad is gone. Abu Muhammad Jalani is now the president of Syria. And this is where terrorism will start once again, because they still hate the West. And when they take a look at what's going on in Gaza, all you have to do is just use your head about what's coming next, a terrorist attack.
Was the only.
We just don't know when it will.
There was There was an arrest today in London of a man, last name Raisi, and British prosecutors said in open court that he provides a direct link to the hijackers. Can you tell us how important, can you confirm that and tell us how important either of you this is to the case and why?
am not familiar with exactly what the British prosecutors said, so I'm not in a position to confirm it, and I'm not in a position to comment on Mr. Raisi. I don't know whether, Bob, if you want to. Bob says he's going to give you the same answer. Now, I cut somebody off in order to not to answer your question.
Karen's question. Do you think bin Laden was the only mastermind behind the attack, sir?
Yeah.
We
What
believe.
does that tell you?
Well, let me just put it this way. We have not ruled out the participation of other individuals and other organizations in this attack. Bob, did you want to add to that?
The only thing I would say is that
That is huge. Okay, that's really big, because what is that saying? Because just the day before, what did I say? The day before they announced, the FBI announced under Mueller that they had all the people that were involved in the plane's operation, the hijack planes. But he can't rule out that there were additional people. Look, he could just basically have said, well, we got the 19. We just don't know the mastermind yet. Not only do they not know the mastermind, but they don't even know that if there's even more involved. Now, of course, omitted in this is the additional hijackings. It's interesting to note that even they can't tell you, and this is 17 days after the attacks, if there's additional more people to be involved. Now, of course, this is an ongoing investigation, but I find that interesting because they were so sure it was bin Laden. They blared his name all over. It was bin Laden because the FBI, nor did the State Department or the Office of National Intelligence knew anything about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. You know who did? The NSA. CIA. That's who. And it wasn't until an FBI agent named Ali Soufan got the information of the mastermind from Abu Zubaydah at a hospital bed. Just a couple of months later.
I think the focus.
Oh, by the way, Raisi, the individual is Lotif Raisi from Algiers, who came to the United States and was a flight student, I think in Arizona, and went to the same school as Hani Hanjour did. Didn't go at the same time, but became a person of interest. Was arrested in Britain, but his case was dismissed due to lack of evidence. What's interesting enough is that Raisi had visited Las Vegas when Ziad Jarrah, Mohammed Atta, and Moen al-Shehi were there. Now, did he meet with them? Well, according to the FBI, not much is known about their visit to Las Vegas. This is where the Saudis would probably come in. I lived in Las Vegas. There's a lot of Arabs that visit there. Arabs love to gamble. And this is the reason why Las Vegas was a target for terrorism immediately after the 9/11 attacks, even before. And I moved there in 2003, and I remember the Stratosphere, which is that total Space Needle type thing, which is in lower Vegas, near the old part of Vegas where Binions is right up the block from there, in an area right nearby called Fremont. Well, that was going to be a target for terrorism, as well as another hotel, by the way, because they hated the fact that Arabs would go there and gamble and lose their souls, so to speak. It was the city of broken families. So That's Latif Raisi. What happened there?
Of the questions in the past and the answers we've given is that there's not just bin Laden, but there's an al-Qaeda network that has been much written about and much talked about. And I think it is, one should not focus on one individual, but focus one attention on a series of networks across the world, which is, frankly, the focus of generally our counterterrorism efforts, but also in the course of this investigation, we quite obviously want to identify the ties, not to just one individual, but any individual which may or who may share responsibility for what happened on September 11th.
One more question, please. What is the investigative value of
Have we been able to trace any of the 19 hijackers back to Afghanistan?
Good question.
I don't think I'm capable of answering that question. I'm trying to inventory. We know where they've been in a lot of times and places, but I'm not, Mr. Director, if you may.
Well, I just, it's something that we can't get into as part of the investigation. And
Of course not. Because now this is the obvious one, right? To those in the know, that the State Department was trying to protect Saudi Arabia here, because most of the 16 of the 19 hijackers are from Saudi Arabia, and that a number of the Hamburg cell, all of them, went to Saudi Arabia, went to Afghanistan. I'm sorry. So did all the Mosul hijackers, because Al Qaeda training bases are there. So I'm surprised these people are not saying publicly what's the obvious at this point, that there are Al Qaeda training bases in Afghanistan. That was known to the FBI. That was known to the NSA. That was known to the CIA, to the Israelis, to the Saudis. Remember, it was the Saudis who told the CIA about the first two Al Qaeda operatives, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. When did they tell the CIA this? 1999. They were running guns through Saudi Arabia. And the CIA then began their operation, which led to the Yemen hub. But the CIA was already there. And the NSA was all along already there, because the NSA had long been investigating Osama bin Laden in the early 90s. So did the CIA. They knew about these people 10 years prior to 9/11. But that wasn't known to the FBI. That wasn't known to the Office of National Intelligence. That wasn't known to the Department of State or Department of Defense. And the question is why? Because the CIA was running a black operation with Saudi intelligence and monitoring Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi while inside the United States. And if that was known to the State Department, George Tenet would be fired and not given the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And the CIA would be maligned. No funding, no nothing. Probably even disbanded.
And part of
Makes you think.
our investigation, quite obviously, is try to determine the past histories of each of the hijackers, trace their time in the United States, but also attempt to identify where they were prior to their coming to the United States and track their movements through any number of countries overseas. And we are in the process of doing it, and we've had, I will say, substantial cooperation from a number of countries that have enabled us to start to put together the picture, but the picture is nowhere near fully painted.
Thank you all very much.
Can I just ask you, there were thousands of trucks that were stopped.
You know, let me say this too, that there's a substantial timeline on all the hijackers that the FBI put out, but there's a lot missing. And if you ever want to, reach out and get that timeline, just Google FBI 9/11 timeline. And it'll show you step by step the hijackers made before coming to the United States and while in the United States, all the way up to September 11th, 2001. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.